Okay, so we found this book. It's called The Digital Fast. I'll give you a little intro to it in a minute. It's going to be our guide for the 40 days of Lent. What might it look like to put our phones down in some way? Now, we're going to spend some time at the end actually talking about what exactly you might do. But what might it look like if we put our phones down in some way throughout Lent, and what might God show us or reveal to us if we just give God enough space? Our attention is so valuable and important, so what if we give God enough room to move in our lives? That's kind of the start of all of this, but I want to give you some hopeful encouragement as we get this started. So in the book, there are some testimonials, so I'm going to read you one of them to start. While participating in the digital fast, I noticed a transformative change in my life that went beyond my expectations. The unceasing notifications and constant screen time had insidiously eroded my inner peace. But as I consciously disconnected, I found a new tranquility and a deeper connection with God. In the silence away from the digital distractions, I was able to hear God's voice more clearly in prayer and meditation, sense his presence in the beauty of nature, and see his hand in the small, everyday moments I had previously overlooked. This period of digital abstinence not only reduced my anxiety, but it also brought me in a closer, more profound relationship with the divine. It was as if by silencing the world's noise, I could finally listen to the whispers of the Spirit, guiding me back to a life of enriched faith and renewed purpose. I want that. I hope that tugs something in you. That's something that you might want. So throughout Lent, our sermon series is going to be on people having 40 days or 40-year periods of time with God. So Noah, Moses on top of Mount Sinai, Jesus in the wilderness, etc. So the sermon series isn't necessarily going to be about phones. I think that would just suck everyone's soul out of their body. If we made every sermon about technology, that would not nurture. They may touch that a little, but the sermon series is going to be about what God does when we give God 40 days. But Sunday school, this time, throughout Lent, we're going to unify and go through this book. Every day of Lent has a devotion, and then each week we're going to have time to get together to talk about the experience of your digital fast, whatever that looks like for you. So I hope you'll keep coming to Sunday school throughout Lent, because it's not just the information we're going to give you, but it's also the chance to be in community with other people trying this little adventure, this little experiment of digital fasting together. So this book, the reason we're using this book is because if I could have written a book with a title for this is what I would have, the title I would have wanted. This is the only book I know of out there guiding a community through a digital fast. The first section, which if you're reading the book, you could have read for today, but if you're not reading the book, that's okay. The first section kind of sets up why do a digital fast. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. The second section gives a little preparation, which I'm also going to talk about today. And then the middle section are daily devotionals throughout Lent. So if you're going to do digital fast and you want to participate with the book, buy this book. I just learned you can get it on Kindle Unlimited. We have some
here for $20 each. You can get it today. You get a correct change or check, or you can buy it.
Just in case you couldn't hear, we've got copies over there by Miss Robin, and they're $20. So if you want to walk out the door with one, you can. And it's there. The one thing to note if you're getting it or buying it yourself is there's two versions. One is a 28-day version and the other is a 40-day version. We're doing the 40-day version. So make sure you grab that. It's by Dr. Darren Whitehead. He's a pastor in Nashville, Tennessee. And he did what I wish I had done a year and a half ago, which is guide a community through a digital fast. So we'll be using this. And then at the very end of this whole experience, he guides you in writing a digital rule of life. A rule of life is an ancient Christian practice where you kind of say, what are the spiritual disciplines and practices that are going to guide me? You probably all already have one. If you say, I like to get up in the morning and read my devotional or read my Bible, that's part of your rule of life. but he guides us in what might a digital rule of life look like after having taken some time away and explored what it's like, what might that look like. One last caveat about this before we kind of get into it today is Darren Whitehead is not a Presbyterian, and one of the themes he uses in the book that you probably have not heard around the halls of the Presbyterian Church before is he talks about the enemy a lot. We as Presbyterians, we don't emphasize the enemy very much, that would be the devil or spiritual warfare, and that's in part because John Calvin talks about the devil like this. He says, the Israelites, they cross the Red Sea and Pharaoh pursues them, and then God closes the waters around Pharaoh, and Pharaoh is on a rock out there in the Red Sea, cannot get to the Israelites anymore. Calvin says, if we want to be afraid of the devil, it would be like the Israelites being afraid of Pharaoh getting them anymore. The devil has been defeated because Christ has won the victory on the cross. So we are not anxious about spiritual warfare or the enemy. However, that's the language he uses in this book. And so I just don't want that to become a stumbling block for anyone. I think anytime he talks about that, I encourage you just to think, okay, there are stumbling blocks out there, whether it's a personified evil that is trying to mess me up, or if it's just that this is how the world is, that the world is full of things that are going to try to trip me up and get me off track. I think that's how I would read it more personally, but I just want to name that for you all. I don't want that to be a hindrance as we go on this adventure together, because I think everything in this book is really, really excellent. But that's one theological little tension point, all right? Okay, that's the intro to the book. Now, this is why you all have a piece of paper, so grab a paper and a pen or a marker. We're not gonna write a lot, but in the beginning of this book, he gives us he says, a man named Dr. David Greenfield, founder of the Center for Internet and Technology Addiction, and he's a psychiatry professor at the University of Connecticut School of Medicine. He wrote a test to find out if you have perhaps a smartphone compulsion, okay? So, just make a little tally on your paper for each one of these that you might answer yes to. Ready? Do you find yourself spending more time on your cell or smartphone than you realize? Do you find yourself mindlessly passing time on a regular basis by staring at your cell or smartphone? Do you seem to lose track of time when on your cell or smartphone? Do you find yourself spending more time texting, tweeting, or emailing as opposed to talking to people in person? Has the amount of time you spend on your cell or smartphone been increasing? Do you wish you could be just a little less involved with your phone? Do you regularly sleep with your cell or smartphone turned on under your pillow or next to your bed? Do you find yourself viewing and answering texts, tweets, and emails at all hours of the day and night, even if it means interrupting other things you're doing? Do you text, email, tweet, Snapchat, Facebook message, or surf while driving or doing other similar activities that require your focused attention and concentration? If you're feeling uncomfortable, just know this is the Presbyterian. We're going to start with confession, and then we will get to absolution in a minute. Do you feel your use of your cell phone or smartphone decreases your productivity at times? Do you feel reluctant to be without your cell or smartphone even for a short time or more? Do you feel ill at ease or uncomfortable when you accidentally leave your phone in the car or at home and have no service or have a broken phone? When you eat meals, is your cell or smartphone always part of the table setting? Right there. When your cell or smartphone rings, beeps, buzzes, do you feel an intense urge to check for texts, tweets, emails, updates, and so on? Do you find yourself mindlessly checking your cell or smartphone many times a day, even when you know there's likely nothing new for you to see? Okay, that's our list. Now, I'll just go first. I think that's what a good pastor should do, is go first and say, I had 8, and I've been working really hard on getting it lower, and I still had 8. So I'm not gonna make you confess how many you had, but let me tell you what Dr. Greenfield would say, how to measure your own compulsiveness with your phone. If you have 1 to 2 tallies, your behavior is normal. 3 to 4, it's leaning toward problematic or compulsive use. 5 or more, you may have problematic or compulsive smartphone use. And 8 or more, your score is, you might consider seeing a psychotherapist or something. Consultation. My guess is most of us are at 8 or more. Because goodness gracious, how many times I feel this, my phone buzzes, and no matter what's going on, all of a sudden, boom, I'm like, what is it? I need up. Even if someone else's phone buzzes, I start thinking, I gotta check mine. What's going on there? So I think we're all there. We're all in this boat together, and there's no need to be judgmental or condemning about it, because we're all in this. So if your number is at 1 or 2, bless you, I'm so proud of you, and you're gonna have the easiest digital fast of all time. If your number is like me, or 8 or higher, we're gonna learn a lot together in this season. So let me give some of the rationale for why we might embark on this adventure. And then we're gonna really get into the details of what your digital fast might look like. So the first thing Dr. Whitehead argues is that attention is devotion. And I think that's a really good observation. If the more you research about all this world, and he says this in the book, the tech executives know the economy, their market is not tech, it's attention. What they are seeking and selling is attention, and they know how absolutely valuable your attention is. At one point, the Netflix CEO said his biggest competitor, this is public information and a fact, his biggest competitor at Netflix is sleep, because you can't keep people on Netflix if they have to sleep. So we are competing with all these things for our attention, and that which you pay attention to grows, and our attention is part of devotion. So I think he's really right on in pointing out what we give our attention to, we are giving our devotion to. And our phones are designed to be addictive. It's just a fact. They know what random reward schema is the most addictive of the schemas. So if like every time you're playing a slot machine and you win every other time, that's not very addictive. But winning at randomly in a pattern you can't anticipate, that's the most addictive format of reward system. And that's what our cell phone designers are working with. That's what they're trying to do. They are trying to addict us. I have a friend who was a teacher up in Ohio, and they were doing some studies about smartphones in their school, and she said one of her friends every year has all of her students for one class period tally the notifications they get during class. And this year, her class in 45 minutes, a class of 20 students, had 875 notifications total. Wow. How can anyone focus? I couldn't, oh my goodness. So it's always trying to say, hey, come back to me, look at this. And you think, I look at it for, at best, a second, but let's be honest, if it's me, I'm looking at it for longer than a second. But even that 1 second, that's getting our brains off of track. It takes us away from deep focus, which is sometimes one of the most wonderful experiences in life, when we're in the flow of doing something we love, and it's just ripping us out of that. And it gives the power of our attention to these developers. So if you've done Wheels, you don't choose what you're about to see. Granted, it pays attention to what you've tend to like in the past, but blah, 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 but you don't know what they're about to serve you up. And there have been some wild videos out there. I am told, I'm grateful I never came across this one, but there was a fake video, thank God it was fake, but a fake video of a cat in a blender. The kids scroll, sliding through, I'm using all the wrong terms, and so sure you can correct me on this. Scrolling, and then all of a sudden, bam, you see this thing that seems heinous. And we've just surrendered the power of what we're gonna see to some other people who are trying to get us to keep looking. That's a pretty big deal. I have a friend in town. He doesn't go to this church, but he's a deep Christian. He's been around here a lot. And he said his son saw pornography for the first time in 5th grade on a friend's cell phone. I mean, we're surrendering so much of our power to what we see and encounter and engage to developers. So first, attention is devotion. So what if we could just reduce a little bit? I'm not saying we're gonna get rid of it all. And when I show you the options of what you might do for your fast, you'll see. What if we could just reduce the amount of attention these things take from us and to see what God might do in the space created? That's really the premise of this whole thing. The next argument that Whitehead makes about why we might consider doing this is spending so much time on our phones might not be life that is truly life. We are spending, I think, less time in our bodies. I was this week with some Presbyterian colleagues across the state, and Dr. Joe Harvard who was at First Presbyterian in Durham. Dr. Bob Lewis goes there now, so he probably knows Joe. Joe lost his wife this year in his late 80s, 67 years of marriage, and so he came to us and he's given us his update, and he said, someone told me that the best cure for sorrow is to be in body with other people, just to go and be in community with others. And he said, boy, this week of being with other pastors has really been a balm to my soul. And I think that's true. We need to be, our actual just like healing from grief can just be physically being around other people can be a balm. But the story of the phone is saying, well, you don't really need to be a body. You can just send a text, give a call. I mean, FaceTime is as good as it gets on the phone, but that's not the same as hugging a person or being next to them, sharing space, eating food. And the other thing about our phones is that I think we use them to numb. I can say at least I absolutely use my phone to numb. I have a conflict with someone, I'm feeling really anxious, and I am checking my emails so much more. I'm opening the weather app all the time. Now I don't need to know what the weather is, but boy, I'm just looking for something to distract me. Even reading the news, because it's just something else that's not the thing that's in front of me that's making me anxious. And I think we live in community a little less embodied. I'm trying to learn how to tell people about my life in person and not just text them. Now, granted, if they live thousands of miles away, that might not be possible, but all the same, how can I maximize the amount of real life time I'm spending with people? Telling important news to a friend in person, because the truth is the online friends we might have, I think that's friendship, but it's not the real full thing, It's like settling, it's like the people of Israel, they have to live on manna, which is good sustenance for them. It's from God, it gets them through the wilderness. Once they get to the land of milk and honey, they've got milk and honey. Why settle for manna after that, We've got the embodied community of people around us. Why settle for something that's not truly life? And Christ shows us, God had it any way to redeem this world, and God chose to have a body, to take on a body, to live among human beings, to eat with us. Jesus is always eating in the Gospels. It's because he's got a body. It's because he loves to be in community with people. And that's part of what we've got. I think these phones are just a little bit taking from us life that's truly life. At least I felt that in my life. Then the last argument Whitehead makes that really just blew me away, because I really think he's onto something here. He argues that our phones are these incredible Swiss Army knives. They can do so many things, and can't they? It's amazing. I can vacuum I could turn on a vacuum in my house and get my kitchen clean while we are all talking here. That's pretty amazing. I can check the weather, find a compass, use a measuring stick. There are so many tools in this phone. And yet, some of the promise of the phones is that it will help us overcome our limits. Now, sometimes that's good. Sometimes y'all know, if you've ever been in a lesson with me and I write on a whiteboard, what do I tell you? I can't spell to save my life. Spell check has saved me. So some of these tools are great, and yet they're also offering us surpassing the limits that God has given us and pretending that we are God. It's kind of a reaction or a reenactment of the Garden of Eden. The serpent comes and says, hey, did God really say you shouldn't eat from that tree? He says, yeah, we're not supposed to eat from that tree. Well, I mean, but it's gonna make you know good and evil. And then she's like, oh, well, it is nice and it does look good. And I can be kind of more like God now. And I want to be like God. I'm with God all the time. So why can't I know good and evil? And it's that surpassing, it's the rejection of a limit that God has given and trying to surpass it that then leads to the chaos of sin. And he argues that God is omnipresent, but our phones are trying to offer us omnipresence, that we can drop in anywhere in the world through videos. You can see the Taj Mahal or the Colosseum. Sometimes I have heard people telling me, well, I went to Rome, and I'm like, well, I've seen pictures, I got it. But that's not, like, again, not life that's truly life. If you've actually been there, you can tell me that all more. But it does give us this ability to be anywhere at any time. It enables us to monitor the locations of family, like we are present everywhere. It enables us to video chat, which isn't all bad. I thank God for video chat, because Nana and Papa, we video chat them probably every day. But it does, that does physically surpass the limit of my body, because my body's right here. I can't be in Delaware right now. I'm here in Salisbury. He also says God is omnipotent. That's all powerful. And yet with our phones, we can have control over our home, like I talked about in the vacuum. We can broadcast our opinions to people everywhere, not really knowing the context of anyone we might be saying this to. And we have a world of options at our fingertips. We can go looking for the exact, I had to buy Loctite this weekend, and I went online and I found the exact kind I needed, and I went on Amazon and I almost bought it, but then I got lazy and I did. But you can go and find the exact thing you want at any time you want it, and it will be at your doorstep. That's power. That's really powerful. And in some ways, that's us surpassing our power limits. And then finally, God is all-knowing. I think this is maybe the most tricky one, is that our phones give us the ability to search anything at any time. How many of you have had some kind of passing fancy come across your mind? I wonder what this is, and then you can just look it up right then and there. I had some women, I was talking to them in a coffee shop after Josh did a presentation on the anxious generation, and these women said, we got our kids smartwatches because they can only call and text, but they figured out that they can ask Siri anything. So they are asking Siri for answers to everything instead of coming to me now in 6th grade. And I thought, oh yeah, duh, we all do this, but now it's this ability to get our questions answered immediately. And then we're not living with wonder or curiosity anymore. We're not saying, oh gosh, I still don't know the answer to that, but someday I'll get there. There's kind of a beauty to that scavenger hunt of life and the mystery that we have to live in. I think it closes the wonder of this world down. Josh often argues that our phones limit the wonder we encounter in life. And gosh, wonder is one of the best experiences in life. Yet it's being limited. So we have limits, and I'm just offering the question, what might it be for us? What might it be like for us this 40 days to just reduce some of that? Not all of it, because these are not all evil. They are great. They offer us so many gifts, and yet I think that compulsion survey at the beginning is revealing to me, at least, that my relationship with this wonderful, powerful device is not as it ought to be. And then as a result, I don't think my relationship with God is as it could be, because I'm not giving God the space or the time. So that's his theological argument for why, and I think it's a pretty solid one. So check the time, we've got time. I'm gonna have you in your tables. So if you're not at a table, maybe just turn to someone near you. In your tables, talk about one, what about Whitehead's argument sticks out to you as true. So just what I just shared with you. Did any part of that ring particularly true to you? Share that with your table. And then also share what about a digital fast makes you nervous, okay? All right, I'm giving you like 5, maybe 10 minutes. Ready, set, go. take another couple minutes. I love this in our chat. Just take another couple minutes. The Lord be with you. The Lord be with you. Oh, that was just a beautiful chorus of all talking to each other. Throughout Sunday school and Lent, we are going to have opportunities to talk to each other because the real community is the creme de la creme. It's the best. Okay, so I'd love to hear just a little bit about what your tables talked about. Anyone dare to share an observation or two? Josh.
Me and the youth just made a pact about what each of us is going to try to give up. So
cool.
that's all. I'm not going to, tell you what we're good enough, but
I love
we need
it.
to talk about what we're actually going to try to do, and not go too hard so that we just lose it. I said, what do you do when your parents tell you not to do something? You want to do that thing.
Yeah.
So anyway.
I love it. We'll get to that. That's the next topic too. So just, what else, Steve?
So what will the fast look like for those of us who have to have that device for work purposes?
Amen.
And
Yes.
how can we participate and still be glued to that thing? Because I need to find a way to do both.
I'm sensing excitement to talk about. I have a checklist that I'm going to give to you, and you can choose what things you want to do. And I'm about to pass it out and explain it. And there will be options for you, Steve. Someone was just telling me that to log into their work as a pediatric NP, they have to have two-step verifications. They have to have their phone to do their job now. And many of us do. So, but there are options for you. But what else did y'all discuss? Lily?
Notice at our table, it was brought up, how do our friends and people that communicate with us through the phone that aren't doing the digital fast understand if we're not answering in a timely manner?
Yes.
Ghosting all my friends.
Just ghost everyone. That's not right. We don't want to break down. We want to build it up. Yes, we'll talk about that too.
Really good thing to bring up. So.
That's a great point. Others.
So I'm saying this, but nobody can tell my son. So I got mixed up, my son lives in West Palm Beach, and I got mixed up on his travels and thought he was supposed to be flying to LA this week, but I didn't. He always says, at the airport, love you. And I didn't get at the airport, love you. And I didn't want to text him. So instead, I found out where he was by using his location that he gave to me when he was doing a rim-to-rim 48-mile hike in the Grand Canyon. And he forgot to block me. So I just went to that location and found him. And he was actually in his hometown, but in a section of the town that I'd never known him to be in. So I'm like, pulling him up. Where is he? I've got the street number. I don't recognize that. Text him, find out where he is. And I was like, no, I'm not going to. But I felt like that was truly so invasive. But I sure did it.
That power, right? What power we have. I have certainly used, Josh will not share his location with me, but I know. But his father does with my mother-in-law, and so we have used it to know what hole they're on the golf course. When will they have
There.
So,
This out.
I'm sorry. We did it one time. Okay, well, let's talk about this digital fast covenant. I am about to give you a piece of paper with a lot of possibilities. You do not look at this and think I'm supposed to do all of these, because you will fail and give up on all of them. So, but these are options, and I'm going to go through all of them so that you feel, here, actually take one. so that you feel like you have some options. Now, Darren Whitehead, we have a poster in the hall that kind of gives you the exact, like what his recommendation for the digital fast was. And it was basically make your smartphone dumb, only work during work hours or work only during work hours, and then, I can't even remember the third one. They're good, but it's broad. It's so broad that it's almost, I think, too overwhelming for people. Like, just stop using your phone, good luck, bye. We're not sure that's gonna set any of us up for success. So I tried to brainstorm every possibility of what you might do. And even in this morning, I thought of at least 2 or 3 more that we could add to the list. And so at the end of each category, there are spots for you where you can add your own. So if I haven't thought of something, make your own up. My encouragement to you is gonna be to try to do 2, and if only, you can only do one from each of these categories. I think that's doable, but then this is your digital fast. You discern and decide for yourself. As Steve pointed out, as I was talking to someone, everyone has a different starting place in this fast. So you might not be, like me, checking your phone constantly. Maybe that's not your problem, but maybe your problem is scrolling. So everyone's gonna have to make it their own. But let me start with, here are things you can do. So let's look at the smartphone section. One thing you can do is make your smartphone grayscale. The youths taught me this. My smartphone is now grayscale. It's amazing how much less interesting it is once you make it grayscale. And you can make your screen grayscale, and I'm a lot less interested in it. You're gonna have to Google how to do that. It's in settings, it's doable, but that's an option. Make it grayscale. Make your home screen boring is an option. So that's take all the apps that you really like and put them somewhere else on your phone. Hide them, bury them, get them out of your face, just so that when you first look at it, you're not tempted to click Facebook or whatever the app is that you go to the most. Set regular do not disturb hours. I wish Apple would give us the chance to have an away message on texting that isn't just driving. But someday they'll get there. It's not there yet, but you can do not disturb hours, and Apple will now say so-and-so's phone is on do not disturb, so people know when they're communicating with you. So that reduces your notifications, it reduces the buzz in the pocket. Delete all apps I don't regularly use. That's an option for, if you just find yourself like going on your phone and be like, what might I do? Delete the apps that you don't use, so then they're not there to clutter your mind and tempt you to do something else. Turn off all non-communication, like phone or text notifications. If your pocket's buzzing all the time from news, I tell you what, those news companies, they want you to know that everything is breaking right now. But it'll be there in the morning, it's okay. So turn off your notifications. Maybe that just quiets the phone just a little bit in your pocket. Mute your most active group texts. If you're on a gigantic group text and everyone's liking the most recent message, it blows up. So that's a great way to just quiet the phone in your pocket. Notice that these options, none of these are saying, I'm not gonna use my phone anymore. It's just a way to quiet your phone. So you can still use it for all the possibilities, but it's just quieting it down. How might we make it just a little less interesting? So that's the first option. And then there's other you can add your own. I don't think I've thought of all the possibilities of how you might make your phone less interesting. But there's some possibilities. Okay, social media / news. So each of these are, the assumption is I will. So I will delete the following social media applications. So that's like, I'm gonna delete, my mother-in-law said she's gonna delete Facebook app from her phone. That doesn't mean she won't have Facebook anymore. She can access it on the desktop, but it won't be the app on her phone that she can just click on and look at whatever time. So that's up to you. Are there social media applications you're on a lot that maybe you could just quiet down for a season? And it doesn't mean you can choose, like, I can still use it on my desktop, but I'm just not gonna do it on my phone because the phone's too easy. It's just there anytime. So are there apps that you might delete for this 40 days? You can re-download them, all your data is still there at the end of 40 days, but just for this 40 days, is there an app you might delete? Log out of the following accounts. I had a long 2-year breakup with Instagram, and it took me, I did all of these things at different phases, and one was I just started logging out, so getting back in was just that much harder, and it slowed me down just a little bit. So maybe you're not ready to totally give up a social media site, but maybe you're just gonna log out, so it's just a little harder for you to get back in and get scrolling on accident. You know, that's an option. Or you could go so far as to deactivate a social media account. That's not the full breakup, you're not deleting, but that account disappears, all your data is still stored, but it doesn't exist, so no one can search you, find you, message you on that application. That would be an option. Now, you don't have to do that, but if you're feeling like, you know what, that is the next step for me, that's an option. So you could delete the app, you could log out of the app, you could deactivate the account. That's up to you. But those are ways to quiet the social media pull in your life. Only access the following accounts once a week. Maybe you're saying, I'm not gonna give up Facebook totally, but I'm only on Sundays or Saturdays. Will I look? So then the 6 days of the week, I'm good, but on Sundays I get to see the baby pictures and the travel pictures, you know, whatever. So that's one way. Give times of using it, times of not using it. And then the next two are for news. Only consume news in the first half of the day. I got this from Kate Bowler. She's a professor at Duke Divinity School. She has stage 4 cancer, chronic stage 4 cancer, and she in one of her writings, she's written multiple great books, and in one of her writings, she said, when I was going through chemo, I instituted the not after dark rule on the news. Like, no bad news after 7 p.m. And I thought, oh, that's a really good idea, because I see bad news at 8 p.m. and now it's messing with my sleep. So maybe just keep it to the first half of the day. So whatever's gonna stress you out in the world of news, you engage it when you've got all day to live and process and sleep at night. That's just an option. Or only read print news. It's true, video news, whether it's on your phone, like scrolling, or on TV, it is meant to inflame your passions, to make you angry, outraged. That's what gets responsiveness, that's what gets clicks, engagement, advertisers' money. So one way to slow that whole process down is just to read the news. I'll only read the news. That's an option. Now, maybe there's other options too. Maybe you'll only buy and read the print Salisbury Post, or maybe you'll only consume news from a certain organization that you know won't upset you, whatever. But those are some starter options for you in that category. Any questions or ideas? I should be asking. Any questions or ideas on this category? Okay. Don't hesitate to raise your hand. Okay, then home. Here's some habits of the home that you might try. And these are all just options. You don't have to do all the things, but these are just options. And maybe today you say, I'm gonna do a handful of these now, and then in 6 months, I'm gonna try to grow it, and I'll do a handful more. You know, start where you are, that's okay. But I'm giving you the buffet of possibilities. So home, don't eat in front of a screen. Apparently we eat more when we're looking at a screen, and we don't really cherish and enjoy the beauty of the food that we're eating. I learned that recently. Make and or use a phone basket. Who knows what a phone basket is? Judy, what's a phone basket?
When you walk in the door, there's a basket sitting there, and you put your phone in there, and you don't pick it up until you leave.
Yep, it's a basket that you put by the door, you put your phone in there, and you don't pick it up till you leave. Josh and I added one to our kitchen that says unplug and be present. And so hopefully when we sit down to eat with the girls, we put our phones in there. Now I'm gonna try to really use it. But it's there, it's always a reminder that like, hey, I don't need to have my phone when I'm in the kitchen with my kids. Okay, keep my phone outside of my bedroom at night. This is like the most, if you'll Google like how to break up with my phone or how to use my phone less, this is the #1 thing you'll probably see out there. Because they're saying if it's in your room, it's gonna distract you, it's gonna keep you up late, you're gonna sleep less. Another testimonial in here talks about sleeping more. Like, it is possible that these phones are actually keeping us up a little later. This is a way to just sleep more. So keep it outside of your bedroom at night. Maybe you already do that. I do not. I need to buy an alarm clock. Leave my phone in a different room when the family's around. That's kind of like the phone basket, but a little different. Only consume entertainment and community with other people. That's a possibility. So it's so easy to watch YouTube video or Netflix or whatever on my phone, but this is a one-person screen. Like, it is hard to share with someone. So what if one option is say, okay, I'm only gonna be entertained if I'm doing it as a communal thing and not just as a solo practice. Our former, is he still Surgeon General? I don't know. Vivek Murphy said that we have an epidemic of loneliness. And one of the things I suspect about loneliness is that we can do everything truly alone. Like, I can watch the news, I can watch TV, I can talk to people all alone through this device, but that takes away the fun of watching a movie with another person, right? And so what if we just commit to doing those fun things together instead of solo on our phones? And then don't multitask, scroll on my phone while watching TV or on the desktop. Josh and I call this two-screening. You're watching a TV show and then you're also on your phone. I've been very guilty of the two-screen. What if we just say, I'm not gonna two-screen for like this 40 days. I'll stop myself from two-screening. That's an option. Any other home ideas? Marlene?
I was just gonna say, what, the phone not in your room, I just discovered it, you know, we didn't grow up with phones, but you can do the do not disturb at night. I do it from 9 p.m. to 7 a.m., but then you also can add, like, we have our kid, you can add emergency numbers, like if our kids need to get through, you know, because then you think, what they trying to get me? You can add the numbers that can get through, but truly it doesn't wake you up then.
Yeah.
Like from 9 p.m. to 7 a.m., unless you're somebody that's on my list. That's really helpful.
Yeah.
It's in your room, but it's not bothering you.
Right, because you never know who might call you at 10 p.m. at night. We got a call at 11 p.m. last night, and you're like, what's happening? So do not use your do not disturb hours, and then you can make sure your family can still contact you. Other ideas for the home category? Okay, keep thinking. All right, work. So this is one of the things Whitehead does talk about. He talks about keeping work at work, which is so hard. How many of you have felt like work has creeped outside of work in your lives in the last 10 years? Yeah, all the time, right? You're reachable, whatever it is. So options to do that: delete your work email from your phone so you can't check it. I'm gonna confess to you all, I'm horribly bad. I check my email while at stoplights. How dumb is that? I know, I put it down when the light turns green, but I'm like trying to maximize that 2 minutes at the stoplight. I need to do that. That's bad. I know it's me. I'm that person. I'll stop being that person, or at least I'll try. Don't check work email after work hours. So maybe you still have your work email on your phone, but you're gonna say, I'm just gonna keep it to work hours. I'm just gonna keep that time, because we are different. There are different parts of us. There's our work us, there's our family and home us, and they can cross, and that's fine, but it's nice to keep the stress of work contained. And if the stress of work can just snowball and overwhelm every part of your life, that's a lot bigger monster to tame in your life and in your spiritual life. So maybe that's a way. Don't respond to work texts until work hours. If your work texts a lot, then just, you can't, there's no automatic reply for texting, but you can just wait till the next day to do that. Other things, now this gets at what Lily was bringing up, but not told a little bit, put up an away message on your email over the weekend. You don't have to use the phrase digital fast unless you want to. I'm digital fasting from work email when I'm not at work. I'll respond to you Monday morning or whatnot. So people at your work kind of get the sense this is what's happening. That's why I'm not getting the immediate response time that maybe I'm used to, but now I know why. People will respect it. They might get grumpy like once and then they'll be like, okay, fine. They are allowed to have a weekend, I guess. You know? You can add a note about your office hours and response time to your email signature. So every time you send an email, people see at the bottom, I'll respond to you within 48 hours of this email, blah, blah, blah. They know what to expect. You're setting the expectations. And I do think Whitehead says, once you decide what you want to do for your fast, you should tell it to the people you love so they know what to expect out of you, especially communication-wise. Tell it to people at your work. People who need to know, prep them. And people will respect it. I was telling someone about the digital fast. I was telling my mom about it in the lift line while skiing. And this guy across the way said, "That sounds amazing, I wanna do that." I think you taking this time is gonna be an invitation to them to consider their phone relationship and what time they might take. And I think you're getting free of some of the chains of this is gonna help other people get free too. So, are we at time? Oh no, okay. Okay, I'm gonna talk less. Thank you, Ben. Okay, social etiquette. I think we've lost some of our social etiquette. Silence my phone before entering a room with people. Keep my phone out of sight while eating or meeting with other people. Don't just put it on the table, because then it's just a temptation right there. Say excuse me when you're gonna go check your phone in social settings. How easy is it to just all of a sudden, and then everyone's like, what's going on? So just make the practice of, I'm gonna try to say excuse me if I'm checking my phone, so people know. And then try not to use your phone in a waiting room. Embrace some boredom. Talk to a stranger, who knows? Let your mind run. Our minds need some time to process, and I find with myself, I'm constantly filling it with stuff. Okay, other options, use a dumb watch, buy a brick. A brick is a little device that physically you have to tap your phone to it to lock yourself out of certain apps, and then you cannot get into those apps when you tap again. So I've got one at home, I can tap it, and then I can't access a bunch of my apps throughout the day, and then I have to get back home to re-access them. So if you're really having a hard time with a certain app, a brick might be a good thing. It's like a key, a physical key to lock you out of certain things. If you want to know more, I can share it with you. It's magnetic, it goes on the fridge. Use a screen time app and say, I'm gonna keep my screen time under a certain number of hours a day, whatever that goal is for you. If you're at 8 hours a day, maybe 7's your goal, and that would be amazing, incredible. So just do something that works for you. Not look at your phone screen for anything but directions while driving. I've already confessed to you. And then, so the last thing, and Nancy Lynn was just saying, when you take something away, it's good to add something. So the spiritual practice section at the end, I really want you to contemplate and take some time to think about. So I'm gonna go through these and then encourage you to really choose 2 of them. So pray or read scripture before you look at your phone in the morning. How many of you just reach for the phone right away? I do it all the time. So try to give God a little space before we give the phone the space. Attend Sunday school and share this experience with community. So throughout Lent, you can just say, I'm gonna go to Sunday school. That's one of my commitments. And you will be on this journey with other people. There's a daily devotional in this digital fast book. You could journal your experience of the digital fast. It's just so give yourself some space to talk to God about it. I often think of journaling as like it's prayer, just telling God about it. Adopt a new contemplative practice like centering prayer, daily examine, like praying the Lord's Prayer or Labyrinth. Come and talk to me if you're interested in any of those. You can Google them all, but I would love to teach you. Engage in a communal practice like attending worship, Lenten prayer breakfast, or community service. It's amazing when people are struggling with loneliness, how great community service is. And then last 2, I will remain curious about what God might teach me through this fast. That's it, I'm just gonna stay curious. And then finally, when I fail, did I say if? No, you're gonna fail at some point, we all will. So when I fail, I will trust the forgiveness of Jesus Christ covers me and offers me grace to keep trying. See. Yeah.
Have a new iPhone. My team just got it. We text a lot, and that's how we keep up with each other. The new iPhones have a feature send later. And so if you're about to send a text, the little plus symbol is right next to your text that you usually use to get a photo or something else. If you scroll down it will say send later. And so that's what we do now. I'll come up with an idea at 10 o'clock at night, I'll do the text, but then I'll send it. I got 4 texts loaded up for Monday morning from my staff when I get there. But they did get it over the weekend. And I'll still in that report. So if you have that new iPhone, use it. Great.
And you can do it with email too. You can delay send. Okay, one more and then we're gonna have to close up.
Just remember, don't ignore your texts and emails from first Presbyterian.
Yeah.
And you can talk to someone.
Yeah. So we will continue to send your emails and the texts. But if you could on your social media, do a little thing, a post saying, I'm doing digital fast and I'm here. Now, as you go, we've got posters. We want people to know they're doing this with other people. So Josh has one, I have one up here. Come and sign. If you're gonna do any kind of digital fast, if you're checking off any one of these boxes, we'll put them over by Mr. Rob. If you're gonna do any of these boxes, come and sign and say, I'm committing to this and I'm gonna do it in community with other people. All right? Let me pray for you because we're gonna embark on this fun adventure together and who knows what God will do, but that's the part I'm most excited about is what God might do if we all give ourselves a little space to hear God. So let me pray for you. Gracious and merciful God, we give you thanks for the gift of community, for the eager people in this room, for their openness and curiosity about what you might do through them and in them in this Lenten season. We thank you for your son Jesus and the sacrifice he made on the cross and the fact that we get to walk with him toward Jerusalem and experience a sacred 40 days. God, I pray that you will be with these people as they try to sacrifice something for you. God, give them strength and endurance, give them grace and mercy for themselves as they experience all that it might mean for their lives, and give them community that they can continue to return to, process with, and grow together as we try to serve you more. God, just surprise us in this season with your love, with your presence, with your grace. We pray this in the name of your son, Jesus. Amen. Amen. All right.